Okay. So, um, thank you, everyone. Again, it is exam time. I know everybody must be really busy, and you've taken out time to join today's session. But uh, I really feel and believe that even if you are able to, try and use any one or two of the ways in which I'm going to tell you how to use this newspaper in your teaching pedagogy. Definitely, English teaching pedagogy, you will definitely, feel that it was worth taking out time today. So, thank you, everyone. And so let's straight away try to figure out that how exactly is this newspaper a powerful tool. It is powerful because, yes, it is dynamic, it is adaptable to any age group, any size of the classroom, right? It is also um, useful because one single newspaper can be used in various ways. I'm not talking about various subjects today because I am going to pertain to the English language only. But um, if you talk about in English itself, this one single newspaper can help you in developing all the competencies that we are talking about, whether it is interpretation, whether it is analysis, whether it is appreciation, whether it is synthesis, whether it is the 21st century skill of collaboration. Fine. With just one newspaper, we can, touch all of them and really, make our classroom teaching really wonderful, and the teaching learning process can be really fruit differential learning can be attained with the help of this single newspaper itself. It can pertain to the levels of students in a classroom. We don't have students of the same level within a class also, right? So when we are teaching a group which is a heterogeneous group where everybody has a different level of learning, so this newspaper will help us to cater to all the different levels of students in one single, which is the problem especially in our Indian classrooms, right? Um, of course, newspaper engages effectively. It is cost effective. It has a wider spectrum. Why? Because our curriculums are limited just to the textbooks, right? You will tell your students at the most about whatever is there in the curriculum itself. So that is very restricted. If I to open up the arena for my students, right? So I need to expose them to more information, more knowledge. And then for this, I have this powerful tool, which is so undermined, actually, right? We as student also and as a teacher also, we know our teachers used to tell us that, okay, fine, take a newspaper, write a word that you find difficult in your diary, or she used to tell us to read the newspaper every day. But somehow, even as a student and as a teacher, I felt that it is one thing which is not being used exhaustively. Find what all can be drawn out from a newspaper is not being done, and hence the the result is today's webinar, right? It helps in building critical thinking, and of course, newspaper will help us in our English language teaching. It will help us to hone the reading skills, the writing skills, the vocabulary, the comprehension, even the listening skills. Fine. And most importantly, the functional use of grammar. Gone are the days when we used to, give students those 10 pages of rules for teaching them tenses, or maybe teaching them active and passive voice, and then giving them 10 sentences and telling them active and passive voice is done. Or giving them, telling them to write one sentence in three different form. I am eating an apple. I was eating an apple. I will be eating an apple. These are the ways of doing the three forms of tenses, right? But the most effective way of teaching grammar is the functional use of grammar. We have to tell the students to use grammar in a context, and then here the role of the newspaper comes. It becomes all the more important, and it makes it easier for us to help students learn the rules, and as well as apply them and understand how they can master this grammar. But yes, the question which has been haunting me: how can I use this newspaper for all these years? Till the time I took it upon myself, this learning framework coming into play, the planning of learning outcomes, the NEP, bringing in this newspaper as a pedagogy, storytelling as an innovative pedagogy, and bringing this back into limelight. Even I used to feel how to, actually effectively use a newspaper in a classroom, and how to make sure that every child who is there in my class is actually involved, right? So with the stress on um, more of learner speaking in the class, and the teacher talking time has to be reduced. This is one pedagogy. This is one way in which you can actually give the students opportunities to speak, and you can just, go into the role of a facilitator. So, I will begin with an array of activities which can be summed under newspaper rummage. You have to go through the newspaper and you have to do all these activities, right? I have purposefully not talked about the few common ones which I know many of us have been using, because we have been trying to use this newspaper in our class, and all of you are fabulous teachers, right? So newspaper headlines, cutting them and trying to match them with newspaper articles. For younger classes, cutting the newspaper headlines and then cutting their words also, and telling the students to rearrange them. All these are something which you may be doing in your classes. But so that is why I have tried to dwell upon certain other interesting activities, so that your classes become more joyful. Um, a very simple activity which can be used for all the grades, whether it is your grade 1 or 2 or even grade 12, is that tell the students to, I have named it, let's go hunting, to identify a comic strip, identify classifieds, identify the weather report, identify where is the horoscope written, advertisement. Okay. Now, please don't say, okay, fine, ma'am, classes 1 to 5, 1 to 4 may find this interesting. We have to tell them how, we have to teach them how to identify and how to classify. But how will a sixth class child or a 12th grader feel engaged in this? So, the basic idea behind this could be the first step of your activity, kind of, preparing them, a warm up kind of, and then you can club certain other activities that I'm going to discuss with you today. You can maybe add them on here, right? So this could be a warm up. So please don't feel that this is not specific for the higher grades, and how are we going to use this and how is it going to be beneficial for them. I am sure it is going to be beneficial, right? So you can talk about an article where which talks about politics. They have to hunt out that article, a birthday announcement, an article about a charity event, and let them classify. Okay, so this will help your students to classify, identify and classify. This will build upon their skills, right? These are skills which will be built. And obviously, everybody will be engaged. Everybody will need a newspaper. They may have different newspapers. They may have the same student edition, which you may be supplying to them in the school on a daily basis. It is up to you how you take it. Or you may tell them a day in advance that everybody will bring a newspaper to the class and do this activity. And here onwards, I really want my because today we have a small group. Usually, maybe because of exam time or something, I usually cater to huge groups where I'm talking to 80, 90, 100 teachers together. So I have not got an opportunity to interact with everybody. It used to be, a difficult task to engage and maintain the decorum. But today, because I'm talking to a smaller group today, may I request everyone to please think of ways in which you will be able to use these activities, or you will be able to tweak them according to your own need and requirement. I am just initiating you into these activities. You can do wonders with them. I'm sure about it. Right? So, how are you going to tweak it? How do you feel that activity number 2, 3, and 4 I'll be able to do in my class? Or I have already been doing activity number 15 with my children. So, we will try to discuss this towards the fag end of the session today. So, everybody be ready. See how you're going to tweak. So, it's not going to be a one-sided talk today. Today, we are going to take inputs from each other and better our teaching experiences in the class. Okay. So everybody get set, go. Okay. So this is the same part of the let's go hunting technique where you can tell the students to find an article about a cricketer or maybe a road mishap news or something of that sort. The second activity is a vocabulary based activity. I have put very, very simple, ways of implementing this on the screen. You can do anything. For example, you can tell your students to find words which begin with an offbeat alphabet Z. Okay, you can tell them to find words which begin with, I have put here R and E. You can take I and E. You can take S and A. Fine, and let them list those. For that, you can either tell them to look up any two articles. Okay, those articles you can shortlist. You can tell them that you shortlist your own articles, but just tell me which article you all are reading. Fine, you can tell them to pick out pairs of synonyms and antonyms. You can tell them to list adjectives, adverbs. So again, one activity can be tweaked for any standard, any class, any activity. You can even divide your class into groups and tell them the first row is going to do the first activity, which is here on the slide. They are going to find the words which are going to be which begin with the alphabet Z. The second row will try to search for the words which begin with alphabet R and end with E. Now, what I have done in my class, after they have found, I do it in a time-based manner. This is how I bring in gamification in my class. Fine. It is a time-based thing, 10 minutes only. After 10 minutes, this exercise is over. We discuss and we go to our lesson reading, because after all, we have to finish our curriculum also. Now, we have to do that also. We just can't keep on doing these activities and forget about our syllabus. So this is just something which we do in the first 10-15 minutes. All right. And then after that, I tell them, okay, fine. Now you think from your own side. Can you think of more words from your own side which begin with the alphabet R and end with E? That is the second part. Third part, okay, fine. Now open up a dictionary and find out the words. So I had done recently in my class, just maybe in the month of December, probably, I had done with alphabet I, which begins with alphabet I and ends with alphabet E. After they took out, say, 10-15 words from the two articles that I had given them, they did some from their side. They took out 150 words from the dictionary. One child, I'm just quoting you an example, not everybody could do that. He took out 150 words and then we shared it in the class. There were some who could do 70. I tried to mark the exclusive words and put up on the board. Could anybody find out this word? Could anybody find out this word? Oh, does anybody know the meaning of this word? Oh, even I'm hearing the word for the first time. This is how the class became peppy. Everybody was talking. Everybody was telling, oh, ma'am, this is my word. Oh, ma'am, this is my word. Look at this word, ma'am. And we had a wonderful, it was a beautiful exercise, and it worked really well in my class 9. Fine. So please do try, and please share your experiences, that how are these working in your classes. Fine. Very simple activity wherein you can read out a newspaper article. You can tell them to read one particular article. If you're reading out, so listening skills are being enhanced. If you're telling to read something, so they are reading, so their reading skills are being enhanced. Fine. So tell them to read an article. It will help you to prepare them for comprehension passages. But yes, you will have to work first. You will have to prepare a few questions in advance, so the teacher's job increases. Here again, one more thing. Why newspaper is a powerful tool? Because it is easily accessible, fine, and you can mark it, you can clip it, you can file it. You do it once and keep it with yourselves. Distribute photocopies in your other classes, right? If you are proactive enough, and you want to prepare questions, for every new class. So wonderful, nothing like that. Prepare questions for articles every time you are doing such an exercise in the class. Okay. So I'm sure this is for the younger grades, exactly, not for the higher ups. You can pick up any small article like this, put it on a paper the way it is given over here, and then tell them to figure out the questions which are given away, and tell them to mark with different color pens, different color pencils, and come out with the answers. This is actually an example of your 5 W's and 1 H. I'm going to talk about this activity in the other slides also, wherein you tell the students to read an article and try to find out who it is, about whom, what happened in the article, where did it happen, why, and then when. Fine. And how. So again, you are enhancing the skills of reading, skimming through an article. And very important, a child who is struggling to read, you can't expect the child to read a Lewis Carroll book. You can't expect the child. So the child will feel much more comfortable in holding a newspaper and reading it. That is why newspaper is a powerful tool. Okay, fine. Yes. This is something which is very, very, interesting. If you talk about this particular picture which is there on your screen, fine, you can tell your students to what is the expression of the girl. They're going to observe, and they are going to, somebody's microphone is on, if it could be handled. Thank you. No, it's still on. Bhavna, ma'am. Bhavna, ma'am. ਰੋਟੀ ਖਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਡਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਬਿਠਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ So if we could tell them to try and decipher what is she trying to, look through the magnifying glass, what is she holding, then what is she trying to look at, what are her expressions, what do her expressions tell. These are ways of, again, involving the students. Based on this, you can tell them to write a story, you can tell them to answer certain questions, you can simply tell them to describe the picture, right? So this is a picture which I picked up randomly from a newspaper. And nowadays, skimming for articles, accessing newspapers has become all the more easy, because you have digital version of the newspapers also. So if you could tell them to reach out on Daily Hunt or the TOI shots of the day that you have, fine. So various small sites which they can, log into and access the article which you are going to take up in the class, or access the picture that you are going to talk about. Accessing and sharing the same article, reaching out for the same article that you are going to, take up in the class, or you are going to involve the students with, is now not difficult with the digital, media coming into play, right? The other as the picture shows over here, fine, we are going to rummage the newspaper, but here we are going to, imbibe, develop a skill of collaboration and synthesis, right? We are going to divide our class into small teams of 4. I understand in Indian classrooms where children sit one behind the other, it becomes difficult, but groups of 4 are workable, right? So groups of 4, if you feel that no, four children cannot work together, maybe pair work, fine. Collaboration is something which we definitely need our children to work on, right? Divide them into small groups, then tell them maybe from the whole newspaper, maybe from 5 articles, maybe from 2 articles, maybe if there is some child in your class, who is not very comfortable in reading, maybe from 1 article. Tell them to prepare questions which they have to ask to other teams. Every team will get a chance to put up questions to the other team, right? And these questions could be very simple questions as they are there on your screen: who won the trophy, what happened to whom, where it happened, how many people died, etc. Let them frame the questions, let them interrogate each other. They will learn the art of framing questions. They will learn the art of going through the questions. They will learn the art of synthesizing information, finding the answers, putting forward, and you are involving everybody. And you go into the role of the facilitator. You step back. You are actually not doing anything after you give these 3 or 4 instructions in the class. You are just observing, taking rounds, and seeing that the children are working and they don't get stuck anywhere, right? So and if you make it time based, so definitely it brings in that element of competition, the element of I'm going to finish first. So it becomes a fun activity. Fine. Same newspaper. Fine, we have been talking about figuring out, identifying, classifying. These are an array of things that you can do with them. You can tell them to figure out complex sentence, simple sentence, compound sentence. You can tell them, I've already talked about synonym and antonym. You can tell them to assess 4 or 5 different kind of advertisements. Which advertisement is appealing and why? You have to rate the advertisement, but there are rubrics. Fine, describe them. You can tell them to make a list like this of the new term that you have found and then the definition meanings, right? You can tell them to find the synonym of the word said or any other word for that matter. Fine. I'm getting a notification that the meeting will get over in 10 minutes. So please rejoin with the same link. Okay. Fine. You can talk about the top headlines. You can talk about the headlines which interest you. Which are the headlines that interest you and why? Fine. So if you give them small, snippets like this and tell them to write or tell them to make the snippets on their own, fine, they will definitely enjoy. 5 important facts which are mentioned in today's paper. Sequence of events. There is one article in the newspaper on page number 3, which has a sequence of events that has happened, right? Just write those events. So they can just, in this graphic, they can fill this. So again, you are engaging the students. You are not making them read an article, which is usually dull. Students find it boring. They don't want to read an article. If you are making them read the article, but you are, um, gamifying it. You are threading an activity around it. So you are giving them a chance to speak and collaborate and talk with their friends and discuss and write. So they will definitely read and they will find it interesting, right? And eventually they will develop the habit of reading the newspaper, which I am so sorry to say is not there in most of the students and in some of the teachers also. Okay. This is my favorite and I have tried it.
Stuti ma'am.
Looks
Stuti
like
ma'am.
Yes.
Stuti ma'am.
Yes.
Myself, Dr. Poonam Gaur, I want to say something. We can integrate some of the portion of the advertisements and the articles with their subjects also. We can divide the team into different subjects. Suppose team A denotes English, team B denotes maths, team C denotes social science. And from the newspaper articles, we can separate the articles into different subjects, and then we can say them ki whatever they are reading from the newspapers, and they can integrate with their teaching also. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, definitely. Definitely they can do this. It is
Ah,
a good
and the
idea.
and the one, according to my side, even in the classroom, the slow learners who are not taking interest in their teaching of science, especially in maths and English, even in science also, the advertisement, the picture which we saw earlier of this PPT, one girl is taking that lens. We can integrate from the science subjects also, so the students who are
Yes,
slow
ma'am.
learners in the
Definitely,
classroom,
definitely. There
they
are an
are,
array of activities. There are an array of activities, mathematics,
yeah, yeah.
grocery shopping. With the help of these advertisements only, there are so many activities to make a record of your daily, expenditure.
Thank you,
You
sir,
have
Stuti
this
ma'am.
much, yeah. So that they all, you can integrate all that, but this is how you can integrate various subjects. Interdisciplinary work can be done with the help of this newspaper itself. So thank you so much for sharing, ma'am. So I was talking about the lie detector, prank using the newspaper. So we can choose certain articles. Okay, or maybe one article, depending upon what is your class size, how you want to do it. Everybody will read the article. It could be done in two ways. Either you are summarizing the article to the children, or the children summarize it to each other. Not the basic thing to do is that while summarizing, change certain details. Okay. So if the newspaper says that around 2 lakh people are missing in the earthquake of Turkey, fine, and you say 1 lakh are missing. So the children have to point out, no, ma'am, it's mentioned around 2 lakh. Okay, so similarly you talk about other facts given, other words given, and you change the details over there. The students will listen to you carefully, listen to their friends carefully in case they are summarizing it. Fine, the ones who will change the details, they will also be mindful which is the detail that they want to change, right? And identifying, bringing out the errors and pointing it out in the class. It makes the class very joyful, and it's a wonderful learning experience, right? It is a wonderful learning experience. And we still have another 5 minutes, so I think I can touch upon this one. This is again something, the name itself, everybody loves to gossip, isn't it? And when you say we are going to play gossip mongers, everybody will, listen to you with full attention. What is the gossip going to be all about? And we are very smart. We are going to use our newspaper for creating all the gossip in the class. Okay. So we could talk about, we have to identify this, we have to identify one or two articles from which this kind of, an activity can be done in the class. Could be about celebrities, could be about politicians. Fine. Obviously, we are not trying to make, fun of anybody, or that sort. We are just trying to draw the attention of the children and make the class a little more interesting and teach them certain things, right? We can in advance tell them that these are the 5, 10, facts based on which you can do your gossip monging. This is the way in which you can chat with your friends, or you can probably do a role play together. Fine, and tell them, do the hand holding, do the scaffolding, how to do the gossip. So you tell them, did you know, guess what, did you hear what she was saying? Did you read that that Shashi Tharoor has made 60 trips in the last month? Oh, did you know that Virat Kohli has asked for chole bhature in his breakfast, and he created, a ruckus because that was not served to him? Are you joking? You know, so this way, and these information were picked up from the newspaper articles only. Okay, and students will use proper intonation and stress. So, and just because you are telling them, this is gossip stuff, so they will enjoy, they will read, they will get to know how to put up their thoughts, their ideas, how to question, how to pass information from one person to the other. right? They will obviously read, then they will take it, and then they will try to pass it from one person to the other, tell it to the other person, do it in the form of a role play. So again, the entire class, they'll giggle in the class, there'll be noise in the class. But please, it's a humble request, it's high time we convince our higher up authorities that constructive noise in the class must be allowed. Please don't tell us why there is so much of noise in your class, why there is so much of chaos. But if the chaos is a healthy chaos, if there is something constructive going on, I am in control. I am the facilitator and I am in control of my class. Doesn't matter if my class is making noise, right? So please, this is something I used to have a problem initially, that the moment activities used to start and the eyebrows used to be raised, that what is happening, madam, why is there so much of noise in your class? But with NEP laying so much of focus on the learners, telling us the teachers to, take up these collaborative activities, how can we tell them to put finger on your lip and do a collaborative activity? It's not possible, right? So please try to convince the higher ups. And I am sure when you show them these activities in their class, your learners getting involved with you, so they will also not object to it. Okay. So very soon, please try to join through the link again. And it's showing me 1 minute. Okay. To teach alliteration. Okay, funny alliterations in English language, we have to teach them. So these are small headlines given over here. The school overrun with dash mice. Tell them to write a word which will be an alliteration of the word, this consonant sound m. Fine, some will say malicious, some will say majestic, anything funny. Say anything that you want to say. All that I want to teach you is alliteration. Fine. Dash spaceship lands in a town center. Tell them to write something which is going to be an alliteration for this sound, sir. Okay. So again, it will be a fun activity. Now here, these headlines have been picked up from a newspaper and placed in this way, right? You could tell them to do it with their own newspapers, the newspapers which they have with them. Fine. Just tell them to add one word which will make it a heading which has alliteration in it, right? Okay, this is the activity that I had already talked about, and this is something which can be done across all the grades. Okay, you tell them the five W's and the one H, that's how, and give them one article, tell them to pick it up, pick that out and write it on a piece of paper for younger grades. For the higher up grades, you can tell them use the same information